My name is David, and at 53 years old, I thought I understood my life. I thought I understood my marriage, my wife, my comfortable routine. That Friday evening at the Meridian restaurant changed everything I believed about the woman I had shared a bed with for 8 years. Melanie had insisted we celebrate something she called new beginnings. The warm glow of the pendant lights cast shadows across her face as she smiled at me. Her auburn hair caught the light perfectly. We ordered our usual dishes. Everything felt normal until Melanie excused herself to the restroom. I was checking my phone when a young waiter appeared beside our table. His eyes darted nervously toward the restroom. Without a word, he slid a small black box under my hand. "Hide this," he whispered, his voice trembling. "You will need it tonight." Before I could ask anything, he walked away quickly, almost stumbling. I slipped the box into my jacket pocket just as Melanie returned. The rest of dinner passed in a blur. Melanie talked about her day, but I could barely concentrate. The box in my pocket felt like it was burning through the fabric. The drive home was quiet. Our house on Riverside Drive looked peaceful. Melanie announced she was taking a long bath. The moment I heard the bathroom door close, I retrieved the box. Inside, nestled in black velvet, was a cell phone. Attached was a small piece of paper with a single word: read. I turned on the phone and my blood went cold. The screen was filled with text messages between two contacts, M and Love. I didn't need to guess who M was. The messages spanned months. "Can't wait to be free of him," one read. "The insurance policy is updated. $1.5 million, enough for us to disappear." Then I found the message that made my stomach drop. "Baby's due in December. Perfect timing." Melanie was pregnant with another man's child. We had been trying for years with no success. But the most chilling messages discussed my death, not divorce, but an accident. They knew my morning running route, my coffee stops, my habits. They had been planning this for months. The man she called Love was named Milton, and their relationship predated our wedding by years. I had never been her husband in her heart. I had only been her target. I heard the bathwater stop. I quickly hid the phone and pretended to read as Melanie came downstairs in her silk gown. "You look tired, sweetheart," she said, massaging my shoulders. I forced a smile. That night, I lay awake, listening to her peaceful breathing while my world collapsed. The next morning, while she hummed in the shower, I retrieved the phone again. The messages revealed a conspiracy far deeper than adultery. Bethany, Melanie's best friend, was the architect. They had researched me, studied my grief over my first wife, Sarah, and molded Melanie into her perfect replacement. They had done this before. A man named Richard in Hartford had been their previous victim. They had killed him and made it look like an accident. Then I found the message that told me how little time I had left. "Wednesday morning, the jogging route by the lake. Milton will be in position by 6 a.m. The rocks are loose near the north bend. David can't swim well. It'll look completely accidental." That was in 2 days. Fear solidified into cold fury. They thought I was a naive, trusting fool. They had underestimated me. I began my own plan. Instead of confronting her, I played the oblivious husband. On Monday, while Melanie was at her fake job at the art gallery, I went to the bank and quietly moved $300,000 into a new private account. I visited my lawyer and rewrote my will, removing Melanie as beneficiary and leaving everything to charity. I bought a burner phone with cash and started researching private investigators. That evening, Melanie was unusually affectionate. "I was thinking about that trip to Italy," she said, knowing there would be no trip. I nodded, playing my part. On Tuesday night, as we lay in bed, Melanie initiated intimacy. "I love you so much," she whispered in the darkness. "I hope you know that." I told her I loved her too, the words feeling like ash in my mouth. She was saying goodbye to the man she was about to kill. Wednesday arrived with crisp morning air. I woke before dawn and pulled on my running clothes. Melanie stirred. "Be careful out there," she murmured. "I love you." She was sending me off to my planned execution. But instead of heading to the lakefront path, I drove to a coffee shop across town. At 6:15, my phone rang. "Sweetheart, are you okay?" Melanie's voice carried false concern. "You should be back from your run by now." "I decided to skip it today, not feeling well." There was a pause. I had disrupted their perfect plan. That evening, I told her I was feeling better and suggested we celebrate my birthday at the Meridian restaurant. "Let's invite some friends," I said. "Bethany, and why not that friend of yours, Milton?" She agreed enthusiastically, probably seeing it as another opportunity to get me into a vulnerable position. At 8 p.m., the trap was set. I had an old friend from college, a detective with the state police, waiting nearby. Melanie arrived in a red dress, Milton at her side. Bethany followed. We ordered drinks and appetizers. The conversation flowed easily. Then I raised my wine glass. "I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. It means so much to have such good friends around me, especially people I can trust completely." The word trust hung in the air. I set the black phone on the table. Melanie's face went white. "I received an interesting gift last Friday. I've been reading about a conspiracy to kill me for insurance money, about a baby that isn't mine, about a man named Richard in Hartford who wasn't so lucky." Milton stood up abruptly. "I don't have to listen to this." "Sit down, Milton," I said quietly. "The police are already on their way." Bethany made a whimpering sound. Melanie's tears began, but I saw the calculation behind them. "You've been poisoning me." I pulled out a small vial from my pocket. I had my blood tested, traces of compounds designed to make me weak. The vial contained water, but they didn't know that. Their faces twisted with horror. Melanie broke down completely, sobbing hysterically. Milton made a move towards the exit, but two plainclothes officers appeared, blocking his path. My detective friend rose from a nearby table, a recording device in his hand. He had heard everything. As they handcuffed Melanie, she looked at me with pure hatred. "You think you're so smart," she hissed. "You'll never trust anyone again. We've destroyed you." I looked back calmly. "No," I said. "You freed me." 7 months later, I stood on the deck of a small blue cottage overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. The trial had concluded 3 weeks ago. Melanie, Milton, and Bethany were all serving lengthy prison sentences for conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud, and the death of Richard Patone in Hartford. The investigation revealed they had been responsible for at least 7 deaths over 12 years. The woman I married didn't even exist. Her real name was Margaret. I had sold the house on Riverside Drive. The cottage had belonged to my late first wife's aunt, a place I had never visited during my marriage to Melanie. Now it was my sanctuary. I had adopted a golden retriever from the local shelter and named him Sam. I joined the volunteer fire department. I started writing a novel. For 8 years, I had lived under surveillance, manipulated by a woman who studied my every vulnerability. Now, the absence of fear felt like breathing freely for the first time. The salt air filled my lungs, the waves crashed against the rocks below. I was no longer a target or a victim. I was simply David, a man who had finally stopped performing and started living. I called out to Sam, and we began our morning walk along the beach. The sun was rising over the water, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. For the first time in a decade, I was eager to see what the day would bring.